I know, right? I'm burning the dope. I'm gonna need one of you guys to hang. There's a hook right next to that don't turn left cube thing. Oh shit. Oh, hello everybody. Sorry about that. So let me turn off the music. Let's turn off the music. You hear me? I'll turn it down a little bit. Yeah, but when you're in here, we hear it. I gotta soundproof some stuff. Either way, the echo is on. You can put your headphones on if you want. All I ask is just get as close as you're comfortable to the microphones. My audience is like, I can't hear them. They're not loud enough. Check it out. You see the new hoodies?
You're echoing.
No, you're just hearing the delay. So try not to. That's why I say put your headphones on, because you're hearing the delay of that speaker through my phone. I need an engineer. Welcome back, everybody. I'll turn that down a little bit so we don't hear it and it interrupts us. Welcome back to the Attitude for Gratitude live podcast. Am I really wearing sunglasses, a hoodie, and a hat? Jeez Louise, audience.
That guy's so cool.
Call me on this stuff. We are having a podcast tonight with two superstars of recovery, Raena and Forest, which we'll get into in a second here. 4026 North Washington. We have this little spot down here called We'll Work for Recovery, and we do meetings every day of the week. I talk about it every week, and you're probably watching this on their Facebook page, mine, Carolyn's, one of the YouTube channels, whatever it is. Share the show. Like usually I'd be bugging my guests who are just listening to me right now. I'd be like, pull your phones out, hop on, and start sharing the show. Like right now, go ahead and do it. I used to do that. You guys know I did that, and then I'd make them on the spot. You're not on camera. You're both muted, but find the show and then share it to your page. Because I saw someone yelled at me and was like, you're not sharing the show. You got to start advertising about sharing the show. So smash that like button, hit the star, the little thumbs up, or just listen and hear about someone's recovery, whatever works for you. I'm not tripping. I turned down sponsorships. I don't need all that jazz. This is my Friday night meeting. You guys all know how it is with me. I do this because it keeps me clean and sober. You guys have heard me doing this whole deal quite a bit about what this show is for me. It's not about making some money. I don't take sponsorships. We do accept donations on behalf of the show towards this center. And if you're able to, that'd be awesome. Donate. You can put like in lieu of Attitude for Gratitude or keep it anonymous, whatever you want. The club does run on donations. It's not like an Alano club. It's a recovery community organization, the world's largest RCO. we have the highest attended meetings in the nation for an RCO, which is pretty awesome. It's a big brag point. Whatever the case is, it's a place to come get connected. Paul came on talking about like this isn't a home group material place. And that's each your own to come find it out. Like, come check us out, 4026 North Washington. You're going to hear us talk about a lot of different places throughout their stories. You're on mute. You're good. You guys can talk. Serious. No, I got you muted. Just like we talk about every week, like whatever that you're going to share about, like that's their story. I'm held kind of to the traditions in a way because I won't sit on here and promote one fellowship or the other. I'll tell you about what's helped save my life. I'll talk about places like New Hope, Allano, and Serenity Village, and Fridley, Allano, and Will Work for Recovery, 2218, Eagle Brook Church, lots of these places. I don't gatekeep nothing when it comes to recovery. I share about what's helped save my life. And then people come on and they share about what's helped save their life, whatever's part of their stories. We scream it from a mountaintop. We don't gatekeep this shit. You know that. So if there's a meeting that you want us to know about, pop it in the comments section. If there's a place that you think we should talk about, pop it in the comments section. If there's questions for the audience, pop it in the comment section. It's an interactive show, so interact. Dang it. No, I'm joking. But basically, anything I don't like, we're going to be getting into some heavy stories tonight. I already I'm making an assumption on this one, but they've been blowing me up like, oh, you're in for a treat tonight. I'm joking. I'm just laying it on thick. But we're gonna talk about some stuff we're gonna talk about some people that were addicts and alcoholics and they found their way to these rooms and they're still trying to figure it out. Like that's what this whole thing is. And honestly, like they talk about newcomers are usually the most important person in the room. And there's many levels of facets to that statement. And for me, it's hearing someone who's still struggling or people that are just coming back in the rooms or people still trying to figure this out. But the key thing is they're here. They're alive. They're here to talk about it today. So for me, there's the hope. That's the hope shot. Like you're here right now. So as always, like if you're struggling tonight, like I'm going to pop on some hotlines, some different phone numbers on the screen and come on down. Like come check us out every day of the week or any of these places you hear us talk about. Or if there's a question you have that you don't want posted on there, my number is going across the bottom of the screen. Like always, reach out to me directly. I'll do my best to get to whatever question you have or whatever you want to know about. We do this thing. I do this thing with others. Like we do this thing together. I could have never figured this out alone. That's what took me so long to get in these rooms was me thinking I could do it by myself. And we saw where that got me. So again, if you're struggling tonight, please reach out. Please reach out. You're worth it. Mental health's a real thing. Like don't shy away from it. You're not alone. You don't have to be alone. Our brains want to play tricks on us and tell us that we're the only ones going through this, but we're not. You don't have to be alone through this journey. And it's an amazing journey. Give it a chance. Give yourself a chance. You're worth it. So buckle up because it's time to go, peoples. All right. Yeah. You guys ready?
Absolutely.
We ready to do this?
Let's go.
All right. We're going to unmute you. We're going to unmute you. And young man, who are you?
My name is Forrest Green, and I'm an addict.
Welcome to the show, Forrest. Young lady, who are you?
I'm Raena, and I'm an addict as well.
Welcome to the show, Raena. So I'm going to leave this up to you guys, but here's what I was thinking. We're going to start with one of you. We're going to take as much time as we need to kind of just tell us your story. I'll do my best not to interrupt or to try to get you to elaborate on certain parts. I know you both have you guys are big supporters of the show, and you've heard so many of the shows, and you know how the show works.
Yeah. 100%.
So you know what it is. I'll try my best not to sit and interrupt, but there will be questions that come in, and I'll do my best to try to address those questions before we get too far from where you're at in your story.
Fire them away.
So who wants to start? Raena? Oh, Forrest?
I think I will start because honestly, I believe we should save Raena for last anyways, because the best for last. Her story has actually saved my life. I'm going to just be straight up with you. In the last 6 months, she's been a rock to me in some very dark times. And I did track you down. I knew that if we could get her to open up and share her story with the world, we might save a few addicts,
You tricked me.
I did trick you. I did trick you.
In the best way.
Might trick me once.
Yeah, but
won't let you trick me twice.
You've been through some stuff, and today's a big day for you. Like you're going through some stuff. So
yeah,
let's just give us a rundown, however you want to Tell us about who you are. Who's Forest?
Well, you know what? I will start with that. Today, I buried my father. We had a beautiful service for him, and I was under a lot of stress and anxiety trying to get through that. A lot of family things going on, et cetera, and I didn't know what to expect. And I'll tell you, today was a blessing from God the way it turned out, man.
And I want to thank you for coming down after, because we knew this wasn't going to be an emotional day, and we weren't sure if you were going to be doing. You said from the get go, I was like, you don't have to worry about showing up. You're like, I'm showing up.
Yeah, man. I didn't know what it was going to feel like. I didn't know if I was going to get the release I needed to be able to show up for y'all today, but I know I did, man. I did get the release.
Yeah. One side note is you told me you were going to come in and shining in the red suit, baby.
I had, I was sweating that red suit out. You remember, you were there.
I was there.
You were there.
I saw you today, baby.
Yeah,
we were looking good.
Big shout out to Pimento Jamaican Kitchen in Wabasha. They put on for your boy and actually didn't charge me anything after, some food and beverages were covered. So that they let me have my dad's whole, event there after Shiloh. Yeah, and the food was fire. But I'm going to just start at the beginning, because something that's been heavily weighing on my mind is like, how did I end up in the place that I felt like I almost needed an exorcism in life, right? Like, how did I get there? Where did it all really start? You know what I'm saying? And I think that, I know I was born into toxicity, and what you don't realize is that character defects, the longer you stay and use those things in your life, not just drugs and alcohol, but the way you behave, will poison you over time and eventually corrupt your soul, man. And that's how I felt. I came into, when I got to treatment, I said, man, treatment's not going to work, dude. You need to call a priest. I need an exorcism. You know what I'm saying? And, so I grew up, in basically a single parent household. My dad, who we buried today, he was a singer, kind of a local celebrity. So dad wasn't around much, and I'm not here to bash my dad on the day that he died, but that's just the truth, right? My mom.
A lot of siblings too, right?
I had a lot of siblings. Yeah, I got a lot of them. Reese, Nisi, Kesey, Cece, Brittany, and Tim. Right.
Seriously?
That's their yeah. Reese, Nisi, Kesey, Cece, Brittany, and Tim, and most of them can sing, which is a trip.
Are those nicknames?
Yeah, it's like Leda Nisa, Lena Reese. I don't even know how to pronounce it. We had to have somebody else actually say the obituary that knew how to. My sister Reese knows how to say their names. Okay. So today she actually had to do that at the service. But yeah, man, my mom was an alcoholic. She's still heavily in alcoholic addiction. She tried to take a break, and she did well. She got, a couple of months under her in this last year, but that was the first time I seen her really come back after it. She did, a while ago, she had a 7-year stop, and it just goes to show you can't really just get 7 years clean and say, okay, I'm going to just be a casual drinker. That don't work, But yeah, so my mom was a dancer when I was growing up, and she used to come home when I was like 6 years old, man, and put a suitcase on the table, wake me up in the middle of the night, put a big suitcase on the bed actually, and say, hey, honey, help me count these ones. It was like a celebration.
Yeah.
It was a celebration, She unzip a big suitcase. Her and my aunt would maybe come back from New York or wherever they came from, and then in the middle of the night, she would let me run down to the store with some money to go get some non-laters. I was about 8 years old. No kid should even be out that late.
No, you're right, but
this is the 80s. This is 88. 1988. And it was, it was a different time then. So, I think that was a part of my upbringing. I'm not bashing my mom either. I love my mom to death. This is just how I grew up, right? It's part of what built me, but it also that's part of what poisoned me. And I think I continue to poison my soul as I grew up, right? So there was definitely some sexual things that were happening to me as a child too, that also played a big part in who I became as an adult. And I didn't realize what was happening at the time was, I thought I was cool and macho when I was 12 years old, sleeping with this lady down the block who's 36 years old. You know what I mean? My friends would watch her kids. She'd come home bombed, and then she'd, have me and my cousin go in the bedroom, and she abused us. But we didn't realize that. We thought that was cool, And then we started having sex with other 12-year-olds.
Do you feel like? Do you remember where your headspace was at? Did you feel like it was wrong?
I didn't. No, I thought I was already looking at Playboys, and back in the day they used to have the Comcast where you could flip the channel back and forth, and then you could see like blue people having sex
in between channels.
In between channels, oh, I got it,
Yeah, buddy.
So there was all of that.
So you're painting this picture. You're letting us know about what it was like. Like, this is how it was for Forrest from 8 years old. Now we're at 12 years old, and you're really dealing with some looking back now, it's some trauma.
Yeah, man. And I didn't have, the thing about it is because my mom was in active use and my dad was pretty absent, that I just didn't have a lot of people watching over me. My aunt and uncle kind of took me in. They had 3 kids and they took me in, but they just, they provided food, shelter, and love. They didn't provide guidance, right? So what I looked to at that age, at 12, I started looking up to the gangsters and the gangbangers, right? I wanted to be a GD. I wore nothing but black and blue. To this day, I still can't put my hat nowhere to the right. It's just natural, And so my cousin, I have a cousin of mine, I'm not going to say his name on the air, but he was one of the biggest dope dealers in Northeast Minneapolis when I was 12 years old. And I wanted to be just like him. Those are my role models. I would sit and watch movies like The Untouchables or Goodfellas, and I just idolized this stuff. I wanted to be just like these guys, Scarface, And you think that stuff's cool when you're young, but what you don't realize is you're poisoning your soul. You're really feeding your brain what you are, what you see and eat. Like, what they say, you are what you eat. I'm gonna get a little biblical on you guys, right? So in the Bible, it says in the garden there were many trees, and each tree bears a different fruit, right? And if each tree bears a different fruit, imagine that you are all trees, and we're in this garden, and that fruit that you bear, if other people eat from that fruit, it's going to be good fruit or bad fruit. Well, I started to, develop a taste buds for the bad fruit, right? I still to this day I don't eat healthy. I eat donuts. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of it is I kept feeding myself this thing, and I didn't realize I was feeding myself this evil. You know what I mean? And I was really attracted to it,
Polluting yourself.
And so without the guidance that I needed, I got into selling drugs when I was really young. I was about 14 years old. Matter of fact, I was stealing it from my mom and my aunt. In the middle of the night, I would go into their closet and find, some weed, and I'd take it. And I didn't even know. I was selling people ounces for like $20 because I had zero idea. I had no idea. I was 14 years old,
You selling dope.
I was selling dope. But then, then we got to, then it led to stealing. We'd go to house parties and we'd raid I don't even know how 14-year-olds should even have these kind of house parties. I don't know where everybody's parents were in the 80s and 90s like that. But we go to these house parties. We'd have sex with other girls our age, which was 12, 13, and 14 years old. When they were laying in bed having sex with my cousin, we'd be robbing the parents' house, the safe, everything. And this isn't to be cool. I'm telling you guys this because this is the poison that created a monster. Right. And so it just kept building up. The things that we just became normal, the theft, the robberies and all that, it became so normal that it's like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? How high can we go? Right. So the reality of it is that, my mom, she's seen it coming and she couldn't do anything about it. So at 15 years old, my dad moved to Japan and to go sing for several months. And my mom hit me up. I've been gone for 2 weeks. I was selling weed on the reservation in Turtle Lake. And I'm 15 years old, gone for 2 weeks. And she calls me. She's like, hey, you're never home. I got an opportunity to go to Grenada, to go run a website and a villa for these people. Are you going to be good if I leave you my apartment? And I was 15.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. I got this. Yeah, I said I got this. So I did. I went, I let her leave. And then all we did every single night was we would go out on basically Tuesday through Thursday night, and we'd leave at about 1 o'clock in the morning. We wouldn't come back till 5 in the morning. We'd just break into cars. That's how we supported ourselves, breaking the cars and stuff like that. So when we were breaking into cars, we found a lot of guns, especially during hunting season and stuff like that. So now with the guns, we got to learn how to use them. Right. That's what you do when you're 15, 16, starting to find guns, and you're watching Boys in the Hood and New Jersey Drive and
New Jack City.
But yeah, New Jersey Drive was one of those ones. Boys in the Hood, Colors, all that stuff was real influential, man. So I'm saying this to you guys because you got to watch what you feed your brain, because you start to become what you think you are. And like right now, I think I'm a man of God. I think I'm a man in recovery. So now I'm able to move in that direction, and I feel so much more relief when I do. And when I backslide from that, that's when I feel this pain and this torment. And I wonder how I got there. You know what I mean?
I want to keep hearing.
Yeah. So, we started getting in trouble, robbing the wrong people, started beefing with other bad people. And before you know it, now we're shooting at each other. And I remember one summer when I was 16 years old that I didn't know if I was going to make it through the day because there were so many times bullets were flying. It was crazy. I can't believe I literally multiple shootings. Nobody got hit. Weirdest thing ever. Drive-bys almost every other day. Right? Somebody shooting at us or we're shooting at them. It was crazy.
Almost like you were protected.
Right?
Yeah.
It was crazy. So my mom said, hey, you know what? You're in a lot of shit. You need to go down to Texas and you need to live with your grandmother and get out of it. Right? So I was like, okay, cool. Went down there. I was actually about 17. And I had gotten, at this point, I had been fully emancipated by the time I was 16 years old. I was, legally an adult. And I went down there at 17 and I enrolled in a community college. I was going to go to, learn how to type and become an accountant is what I thought. But I met a woman who was older than me. She already had a kid. And I, because of my sex addiction, I, latched on pretty quick. She gave it up and then we were together. That's what ended up happening. But my grandma wasn't trying to hear me living with her and being with a, full grown woman. So she said, you got to go get your own place. So me and her got our own place, but that's kind of when I got hooked up with a guy named David and his brother Fabian. And they would go down to Del Rio. They were in the cartel. And they would go down to Del Rio and traffic drugs back and forth. And since I was a young person, they said, hey, this young person could get caught or whatever, and they'd probably catch and release him or whatever the case is. So they had me running drugs for the cartel when I was like 17 years old. Now I really think I'm badass. I think I'm untouchable, And at the price that we were getting the weed for in Texas compared to what you could sell it for in Minnesota at that time was like 5 times your money if you could make it to Minnesota. So multiple trips on the Greyhound from Texas to Minnesota, probably like once every other week, right? But during all that, it was a lot of robberies. A lot of people get, a lot of beef. And why I'm telling you guys again all this is because I'm not telling you this to be cool. I'm telling you how I ended up being so poisoned. You know what I mean?
I know. I just had a message come in saying, when is he going to start talking about the solution part of his story? He's going to get to it. He's painting a picture.
I'm painting a picture.
And this is what it was like for Forest. This is what we do on the shows. What it was like, how we changed, and what it's like now. So
long story short, I can fast forward through a lot of this. I ended up hooking up with a lot of dudes here. A lot of my friends died. One of my best friends when I was 17 got shot in his sleep. Rest in peace, Eric Roby. He was laying in bed and got murdered.
And I experienced some major traumas from the age of 8 up until
yep. And a lot of my friends that I was rolling with, what we thought were idolized, we thought we made it to this pinnacle of the drug game. Well, a lot of them are doing time for RICO currently, and a lot of them didn't make it. Rest in peace, Lou Toller. He overdosed in his mom's building on heroin, and they pushed him right in front of his mom's doorstep and let him die after she's EpiPenned him or whatever. They Narcaned him. Yeah. She Narcaned him 5 different times. If they would have just knocked on the door, he would have been alive today. She would have been able to hit him with the Narcan, but they pushed him in front of his mom's door and let him die. Rest in peace, Lou Toller. So yeah, now later on, fast forward, I just multiple divorces. I got divorced twice. I ruined every relationship that I could possibly ruin. Multiple failed businesses. I owned a bar that we just completely turned into a party house and crashed, hundreds of thousands of dollars out the window. And I kept going to jail. I did a lot of jail time. I did 18 months in jail. I was supposed to be doing 10 years. I mean, we could talk about all of that, right? And I'm just trying to fast forward because you're right. I want to get to the solution.
No. But this is the picture we paint. Like, this is what made you who you were to get you to walk in these doors. Like, usually we talk about this. It's not that everyone's on a winning streak when they walk in here. There's a reason he came to a point of walking through these doors, and he's going to explain. Basically, I'm going to let him do it, but there's a point he couldn't figure out how to do it on his own. So he walked in these doors, and he's getting to that.
Yeah. So essentially, it got so bad that every time I would want to kill myself the next day. Me and my best friend kind of joked that I always lived near a pond because I'd always wake up talking about I'm going to go just swim and let myself drown in that pond almost every time I relapse. And that happened pretty consistently for like the last decade. So from like 35 to 45, if I used, my hangovers weren't just hangovers anymore. It was a mental devastation, completely dark. People having to stop me from breaking things, or I would go sleep in my closet. I literally would go sleep in my closet from being hungover for a couple of days at a time, just lock myself in a bedroom closet because it had no windows.
You've gone to a very dark, deep depression after a bender or whatever, right?
Yep. Yeah. I would make sure there's no windows around, locked up myself. People would be calling me. I'd just be laying in the closet on the floor, with a blanket and a pillow.
And you brought up some self-harm stuff, suicide, whatever. I put a hotline up there. And again, like if you've got some thoughts like this or whatever, please reach out and utilize this phone number I just put on the screen. Keep going.
Yeah. So, this last straw really the big turn for me in February. Me and Erin, my girl, she basically, me and her kept looking at each other saying, we got to quit. We got to stop this. We got to quit. And we looked at each other in February of 2023 and said, we're going to quit. I ended up going to Florida. She did quit. I didn't. Came back on a bender. I ended up going to a strip club that's owned by a childhood friend. Raena might be able to touch on that a little bit in her conversation. She knows that person too. But I went down there and I started drinking, and then somebody gave me some blow. I attacked and aggressively.
And this is after you had decided to come into the room. You and Erin decided, hey, we're going to get clean and sober.
Yep.
She has been staying on the path. Shout out, Erin. You're one of your biggest cheerleaders. I know this. And you went back out and got on one. I'm just setting this timeline. So we got to the point where he's like, he got unmanageable and he needed to get some help. So they're like, we're going to do this.
Right.
And then you got to Florida. Boom, you have a slip and it starts getting dark down there. Self-harm, like trying to go ahead.
Yeah. So I went to this club and I aggressively attacked all of her staff to the point where she would never kick me. I could almost be as wild as I wanted to be. But this time she said I went too far. She booted me. And I was kind of living in a midlife crisis. I had a car that was way too expensive that I shouldn't have been driving or even had. Definitely should have been driving drunk. I jumped in my car, started doing about 140 miles an hour because mentally everything I was doing, my disease was trying to kill me. Okay. So growing up, my name was TJ, but I changed that when I came into this room and went back to my legal name, which is Forest, because I knew that TJ, that persona was trying to kill Forest this whole time. And I realized that. So she kicks me out. I'm doing about 150 and the cops pull me over and they tell me that they're going to blood test me. Well, first they breathalyzed me. I said, dude, I'm done. I know I'm done. And just take me to jail. And they said, well, in Wisconsin, we got to also blood test you. So I decided to flip out and I got into a tussle with all the police officers that came. They were the sweetest guys ever. These dudes should have smoked me and they didn't. And I think I was trying to do death by cop.
Right.
I really do. Yep. And I just was so fed up with the way I was living, even in that hysteria, even in that drunken mess. I knew that this was over for me and I have to change. So they went to jail. I bailed out the next day. And on the way, I went to go get my car. A friend came and brought me. My mom's ex-husband came and picked me up. He drove all the way from Savage, Minnesota to Wisconsin to get me. And when he brought me to my car, which was at the impound, and I got it out, I jumped in the car and I was in such a dark place. I wanted to drive the car onto the other side of the median and hit the first semi truck coming at me. And I got on the phone with Erin and I said, Erin, I got to do something about this today or I'm going to die. And she said, go to treatment. And so on the way back, on that road back from Wisconsin to Minnesota, we jumped on the phone, we jumped on Google, and we started searching treatment centers right then and there. And we looked at which one I could get into, and we called. We actually did like intake and everything while I'm doing the car ride, and got me into Nystrom's literally the next day. And there I met a treatment counselor named Marzak McAllister, who told me that he would help me drown my addiction if I let him. Right. And I was like, well, I'm going to stay Cali sober. I'm going to smoke weed. He said, not during this, you're not. He said, you're going to go all the way clean and we're going to drown your addiction. It's not going to come up. I said, dude, that's not going to work. You need to call a priest. I need an exorcism. You don't know what I've done. Funny thing about this is all that stuff I told you, I've ran into so many people in these rooms, including one of the people I'm sitting next to that got a story deeper than mine. And you think you're so special. I thought I was so special that my story was the worst of the worst. And that's all there is. And what I'm realizing is that people had it harder than me. And if they can fix it, if they can get out of it, then that can be the inspiration that I can hold on to. You know, I always say, I want to join the clean club, right? Because it just looks so damn better, you know? So I went to Nystrom's. I graduated treatment. I did stellar at the treatment where the point where they were trying to They let me go early and they were having me come back and talk to people. And I thought I had it. I was like, you got this, Forest. You got it. Why is everybody relapsing? What's going on with that? Yeah, that pink cloud is for real. And so, I fast forwarded through a lot of my story, you guys, and I'd be happy to answer questions later for you, Tim. But the point being is that I have had some relapses since I left treatment.
Real quick, I'm gonna get in the middle here and bring something up that you shared about that I think is very, very important. You talked about this uniqueness that you thought you had, and it gets shared about a lot in these rooms. Once someone comes around for a while, they'll bring it up, but you realize that you weren't alone. I shared this at the beginning of the show. It's this we part of this program. And that's why we do these 5 steps and we do these things where we go to meetings and hear people share, because we hear our stories in other people's stories, and you let your guard down to know you're not alone. Mm-hmm. You shared about it in a different way, but we've had shows, the whole show about something like you brought up, to find out that, I share about this early in my recovery. I had a counselor tell me basically, you ain't shit, Tim, because I did. I think a lot of us come in these rooms thinking we are unique. We're special. My story, you don't know how grimy I got. You don't know the dirt I did. We put ourselves apart from. We just do. It's an addict thing. I don't know what it is, but do you feel a lot of that is when things changed, when you started hearing your story through other people and realizing you weren't alone on a lot of this stuff?
100%. And I realized that I was living a dual personality, because truth be told, I'm a 44-year-old mortgage banker who's been doing that as well for 25 years. I was doing a ton of dirt while I was still
Mr. Bowtie.
Yeah, I wear bow ties and suits. So like the reality of it is that like I was living 2 lives, for a long time, man. And if you just don't get real with yourself if you don't get real, period, you will be stuck in your sickness. You got to face yourself. That's the hardest thing I think I had to do. Real talk is just face myself, and I'm still working on that, man. I am totally still working on that. It's been a journey, but I'll tell you, the biggest thing that has pulled me out of the darkness the fastest when I relapsed is talking and reaching out to people. It's getting a community. It's getting people like you, Tim, who will honestly hit my phone every day until, you think I'm good. If you don't think I'm good, you're hitting me up. And it's also having people like Raena, who are willing to listen and tell you, like, no, you don't have to drink today, Forrest. That's a big one that she'll say. She's like, you don't have to. Mm-hmm. No, you don't really. No, you don't have to. That's something you don't need to do.
It's powerful when another addict or alcoholic looks you in the face and tells you don't have to use the day.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's more powerful than you would think until someone tells you and reminds you don't have to pick up.
Right.
You don't have to use. And it is common sense. It is. Of course, I don't have to, but we tell ourselves something different. And until someone's looking at you in your eyes saying, you don't ever have to. A guy named CJ did that for me continuously.
Yeah, man. And when you're in your darkest place, man, I wake up crying, bawling in pain, mentally, physically, just ready to call it quits and pull the plug. And it's so wonderful to have people like Raena, like Rob Herman, to step up and just answer that phone call when I'm just shedding tears, because I'm still broken inside. There's a lot of recovery is about repairing your internal well-being, and that's what it's all about. It's not just about getting clean. There's a lot of cleanup that you got to do. Getting clean is cleaning up, right? And so like it's painful, man, but I'll tell you, if I did not have this recovery community, I don't think I'll be sitting here right now on this podcast with you guys, man.
You couldn't have done it alone?
There's no way. There's no way, dude. Like it's and I'm so grateful and thankful that God has brought me to this place and saved me from it, because he didn't save a lot of people. I lost 8 friends since August of 2024. 8 people have died, and they've been overdosed, murder, and suicides. You know what I mean? And I'm on the phone with you, Raena, right? Calling you like, another one. Here's another one. And I'm not even talking about my dad. My dad died of ALS.
Well, we can use anything as an excuse to stay sick or to get sick again. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my check was short, or traffic was terrible, or oh, my dad died, or,
right?
And it's just continually making the choice to not use.
Right.
Use over nothing.
Big time.
Share about everything and use over nothing.
So the truth be told is that, like I'm saying, this having these people have saved my life. And so I thought it was real important, Tim, that we come on here and get real about our stories, and tell the dark side of it, because the devil is at work. Somebody told me that thieves don't break into empty houses. And so there's some really powerful people that I've met in recovery, some people that actually truly care and love deeply, and Raina's one of them. And that's where we bonded and became really good friends.
We got a big slew of people out there like this. So, I mean, and not taking away from what you're saying, but like Ash,
Raina's cooler.
We got, we got tons of people though. You mean, you know what I'm saying? Like there's these groups out here and there's people you get connected
there's hundreds
with.
of us.
Yes. We don't do this alone. Like I said it at the beginning of this show, it's a we program. You said it a couple of times. You couldn't have done this alone. We don't do it alone. Mm-hmm. All right. There's a bunch more we're going to get back to. We're going to dive into the next person's story. Come on. Who are you? Talk to us.
My name's Raena. I'm an addict. There's a lot I could talk about. And where do I start? What do I say?
What it was like. Yeah. What happened and how it's
what it was like was growing up in this similar home as Forest. Like everybody's story is unique in its own right, but it's all exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a broken home. My mother passed away when I was 15 years old. And when she died, I lost my home and I ended up a ward of the state. My little brother went to live with his dad and I lost my school and my friends and everything because they moved me out of town where the bad kids go because I was a hurting teenage girl. I had issues with self-harm and I was already drinking and using drugs before I turned 15. My mom, she gave me my first line of cocaine. She used to buy booze for me and my friends. That was my mom. And then
you had the cool mom.
Yeah, I did
until we said that. Yeah,
I did until she died. And that really hurt me. That handicapped me for the next 25 years. And from that day on, I didn't care if I lived. I didn't care if I died. I was horrible.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 15.
When your mom passed away?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
And my real dad wasn't in my life, and my brother's father had been kind of a stand-in dad. You know, he would come and pick me up on the weekends when he would pick up his own son because I didn't have a dad that would come and pick me up. And he bought me a starter jacket and he took me out to movies and stuff. So I kind of got confused, and it was, weird. I'm going to date myself by saying this, but there was a TV show on during that time called My Two Dads. And so I could relate to that. My real dad was a musician who wanted to drink and do drugs and be a rock star more than he wanted to be a dad. And by the time, I think this was after my mom passed away and my dad would come around. I think he lived at the Union Gospel Mission. This is before I understood what was happening. So he was trying to get sober. He had the coins and the medallions. And, I went and stayed with him down at the Union Gospel Mission one time. And I thought it was just a cool church. I had no clue what was happening.
Not realizing what it was.
I didn't know that he was a hobo who ate out of a garbage can. That was, do I need water?
No, you're good. Okay. You're just naturally raspy, so it's all good.
No, if you want one. I'm a good host. That's what it comes
thank
down
you,
to.
host.
You're very welcome.
Hostess with the mostest.
So you go down to Mission Gospel thinking like, oh, this is cool.
Well, I knew he was a drunk, but I didn't know that he was a hobo. Okay. Or you know what I mean? I didn't know how bad it could get because I hadn't yet been that person. Okay, so. And
I like how you said yet. Because you've had your experience.
Well, right. But on the other side of the coin, my brother's father, when my brother was born, he decided to get clean and sober, and he got a job and he bought a house and he took care of my brother and he took care of me until he couldn't. When my mom died, I became a ward of the state because he had no claim to me because they weren't married and blah, blah, blah. So my brother went to live with him and I ended up in prison a few years later, and he would put money on my books and he would come visit me. And
wait, you said prison?
Yeah, when I was that's what I'm fast forwarding a few years for time's sake, but
there is. I mean, I know you got Shorty here, so but there's no time. We go as long as we want.
So when my mom passed away, I ended up in a group home, and a lot of us have stories like that. You know, some of us don't, but a lot of us have stories where we're the bad kids who went to county homeschool, or we're the bad kids who got shipped off somewhere. And so I ended up in this group home. I'm going back to when I was 15 now.
Yeah.
And I ended up in this group home. And what I learned there was how to pretend to get better.
Right. You learn the system.
Right.
You learned what to say.
It took me a long time to get out of that place. And what I ended up doing was building this facade on the outside where I was doing harmful things to myself on the inside and, you know, burning myself or cutting myself. But I was getting good grades and I was in choir and I was, you know, I learned how to change on the outside, which is the makings of a criminal.
Right.
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 And so I get out of this group home a while later, many months later, and end up with my mom's sister, who I wasn't easy to deal with. I was mean and crazy, and I wouldn't wish raising me on anyone. So I have a little girl, and if what they say is true, I'm in for a treat, man, because I treated my mom and my aunt like garbage, and everybody else around me too. And so I ended up leaving my aunt's house. I was going to talk about my dad. So my dad, he ended up wanting to come around after he got out of jail after my mom died, right? This is like 2 years after I got out of this, or 2 years after she died and a year after I got out of the group home. Well, he was going to come visit me. And he was going to pick me up. And I remember waiting at the door for him. I was like 17. I remember waiting at the door for him. And I think 10 hours passed and he finally showed up drunk, wasted, soaked in peppermint schnapps from head to toe. And I ended up driving him back. I don't have a license. You know, I'm just a kid. We ended up driving back to this sober house. He borrowed this car from this guy. Right. So this was the dad that I had. And anyway, he stole my survivor benefit checks and drank them all up and ended up passing away in 2015 when I was like 35. So that happened much later, but we never had a really great relationship. And so I ended up hitting the streets after 17 and, you know, hopping from couch to couch and doing acid and crank and fluff and all these crazy drugs. And
fluff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dating myself again here. So.
Wow, girl, yeah, you are.
So, you know, long story short, I spent time in closets without windows and in houses, trapped out apartment buildings and destroyed them. And we stole from cars and parking lots and stole cans of ravioli from the gas station to stay alive. And, you know, just crazy stuff, you know, robbing a Dairy Queen for an ice cream cake, you know, whatever. That was the little stuff. And then later on, and I don't, this is hard for me because there's some things that I don't talk about when I tell my story because I have children and because there are people in the recovery community that deserve to have the same shot at recovery as I do that have been perpetrators in my life. So there's some things I don't talk about that I'll touch on later, but I'm even now, after all I've lived through, I have a heart of gold that I want everyone to have a shot at recovery, even if they have been horrible to other human beings.
And we do understand that through our stories, like both of you shared about some pretty heavy shit growing up, but the part for, and I'm cutting off in the middle of your story, but it's real important that you guys both know we don't sometimes tell our stories just for ourselves either, because there's some woman sitting out there who had your same upcoming thinking, I don't have a chance. There's no way.
Right.
Like sharing, you know, my dad, this is like, someone's out there saying, damn, she went through it. I can do this too. Like, I know you guys have heard this, but understand that concept, both of you. Like, there's someone out there struggling right now who has been through it, and a gang of people listen to the show who are still got a bottle or a pipe in their hand. Real talk. There's
one thing I think that sealed the bond between my friend Forest and I, and it was some of the stuff that happened when we were really small. I again don't talk about that stuff as much as I should, but there was some sexual abuse when I was 4 years old, and that paved the way for the human being that I became as an adult.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for me to share, us to share those things, because maybe somebody will have a better understanding of why they are the way they are and how they can help another.
And that they're not alone.
You're not alone.
No.
And those steps, man, that's so important to jump into those. But I want to just pull Raena back to one other thing, because and I know this is jumping way ahead in her story, but one thing that really, really hit me was she actually had an angel visit her with a scratch off.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. That's actually when I got sober.
I know.
Then hang on. I know. Get us. Yeah, I interrupted at the wrong part, but you're talking about you stay in that dark and let's get to that light. I want to hear more of what made you painted your picture. You're still painting yours.
So
because there is a lot that you're going to share about still that.
I haven't even scratched the surface yet.
There we go.
I don't like talking. Like there's a lot in here that.
Forrest said he was going to be your pillow for you to get comfortable.
Come on. So
and be comfortable to share. But remember, like everything that's dark that we share about potentially could help someone's life be saved. Real talk. Because you guys are both sitting here clean and sober tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
With the stuff you've already been sharing about, like, listen out there. Like, you can do it too.
I buried my dad today. I didn't go to the bar.
There you go. See, miracles.
Use over nothing.
Right.
Right.
Share about everything.
So I have a string of abusive relationships, and some, I think with what happened with my mom and the abandonment, and I literally had nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck in a group home with a bunch of bad girls, and I became the baddest girl.
Right.
And the truth, I was the meanest girl, but I put a smile on my face and I figured out how to get out of that place. Right. So I used those skills later in life, and my addiction progressed worse and worse. And it was, weed, then it was, alcohol. I mean, those were the days. But anyway, eventually I ended up with a crack pipe in my mouth, and boy, that eats money real fast. Yeah. So I found myself leaving my job as a maid cleaning houses and down into a club for the first time, and spent 20 years on a stage, because I mean, like Forrest was saying, like, these are the things that we see and we want to be, and then that's your life. That's who you become. And there was a dual personality, the duality that's involved. I literally had this other person that I was, and then there was this other person,
Right.
So anyway, man, I can't believe how much time passed, and just like that, I ended up in prison, hanging around another abusive guy who was 10 years older than me, who I was an idiot. I was a child. I was 20 years old and he was older than me, and he was a drug dealer. And well, let's just say that he, excuse my language, fucked me up pretty good.
Right.
I hope it's okay that I said a bad word.
It's your podcast. It's your show.
So with the things that guy decided he was going to do every day, I ended up with a bunch of felonies and ended up in Shakopee prison. And I'm not going to say that it's not my fault, because I was there and I made the choice to be next to that person. But
a lot of drug charges and theft charges.
Yes, I 4 stolen cars I did not steal, but got caught driving all 4 of them, because he would fall asleep at the wheel, and because I'm trying to be helpful and I care about this person, I end up getting pulled over driving.
Grand larceny, all types.
Yes. So anyway, ended up in prison, which was an experience I would not change. I learned a lot while I was there. I got my GED while I was there. I learned a lot about DBT and
what is DBT?
Dialectical behavioral therapy. It's like thought, feeling, behavior, like behavior interruption, and that's one way to look at addiction. But the answer is simple, and it's not that.
Right. I'm going to ask you guys a lot of questions that we all know. We know the answer.
Yeah. Right.
In the World Wide Web, some of them don't.
Right. So before I went to prison, my stepdad, I call him, my brother's father. This is crazy. I ended up getting thrown in jail, and I'm in jail and I'm hustling, trying to get out of jail. So I'm calling everybody I know. And I called my stepdad, and he ended up saying he would come bail me out. But I had also called the plug, and the plug decided he was going to bail me out. So I didn't know two people were coming at the same time. Right. So
fighting over Raena.
Well, I mean, I honestly didn't expect this guy to show up, and he showed up in a stretch limo. Okay. And my stepdad showed up too. Right. And this is the pinnacle of why I know the answer to being clean and sober. And when he stood out there that day, my stepdad, and then there's that limo and that guy, and I don't even know him. My dad says to me, you have the most important thing you have in your life is the ability to choose. Choice. And I'm looking at this limo and I'm looking at my dad and I'm thinking, and it didn't dawn on me till much later in life that choice is the single most important and the only answer to staying sober, clean, and free, you know? And I got in the limo. I did. I got in the limo.
Deuces, Bob.
Well, but I ended up having to jump out of it while it was running because
they had an ulterior motive.
Well, of course they did, and I.
Oh, so they don't just come bail girls out,
right?
And get them in a stretch and
expect, he had a brand new bag, Tommy Hilfiger bag with an outfit that fit me perfect in the, you know, it was just all bad. So I jumped out anyway. I learned about hard choices that day, and I so desperately wanted to have chosen to go with my dad that day, and I wished I had, you know. But I hear his voice every day when I'm at work, picking up needles and crack pipes at work and throwing them in the bin, trying to help another person find freedom. I hear his voice in my head, you know, choices. And that's really what it is a choice. You know?
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Also, another thing that me and Raena bonded on is Raena was looking to do some housing stuff. I'm into housing and whatnot. And when we first started like hanging out, talking, she was like, she met with me and she said, Forrest, I want to buy property. So we went and met at a coffee shop. We chopped it up. Kind of really right there, we started realizing that we had a lot of close history. And then my daughter's grandfather, he owns a lot of property in North Minneapolis. And he said, hey, go check out this abandoned place that I got for sale. So she meets me over there. She can't get in the door or whatever. We finally get the door opened by one of her friends that's in the program that had the drills to get the boarded up doors off, whatever.
Oh man.
And whoa. I'm not going to talk about it out loud. We seen something when we went in there that wasn't awake. Okay. Cause we could, the small ears. Unalived. Okay. And a young person may have found that person. And it was just really a wake-up call for both of us a little bit at that time that still could be us. We're just lucky, you know, because maybe we made good choices.
We're one choice away from being that person.
There's that key word again, choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, Raena tried to find out the dude's family. You were talking to the police and trying to find out.
Yeah, and I thought, well, hey, if I do open a sober house, what's this person's name? Maybe I'll name it after him, you know, whatever the case may be. It didn't turn out that way, but that was an eye-opener. That day was crazy.
Do you think the statement's correct, Raena, when you say like as long as we're not locked up and in prison, we still have a choice?
I think even if you're in prison, you still have a choice.
You still have a choice in prison, absolutely.
Right. As long as you're breathing air, you still have a choice.
There you go. No, we have that come up quite a bit.
Because that's all that's all you got. At the end of the day, you got the choice and you got death.
I found freedom in jail. Like literally when I had the only times I ever had a clear head in my life was when I was forced to be in a place where I could not get drugs. And then eventually years and years and years had passed. And I ended up getting so good at being a criminal, I could sneak large amounts into the jail and I would just give it all away because I didn't want to be high when I was there because I could take a nap. I could rest.
The only time I ever was able to read a full book was when I was down. That was the only time my head was clear enough to. Raena, story.
No, but speaking of the book, before she goes back into that, I want to touch on that too. When I was in jail, that was the only time that planted the seeds of God in my life harder at that point. And it didn't come out and get right away or anything like that. But that planted the seeds of God because I was doing so much dirt when I was in jail that I did 80% of my time in solitary because I kept getting in fights. Well, all they give you is a Bible. So I read the Bible a lot.
You can't shut the lights off either.
You know, and you can't shut the lights off. So I just read myself to sleep. I read from Genesis all the way to Revelations and back so many times. And it helped me get through that time, and I didn't realize what it was preparing me for later in life. I'm not trying to make this whole Christianity thing or anything like that, but it did help later on down the road. And I agree with you. Even to this day, when times are tough and I relapse, I almost want to go back to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say that, I'm like, you know what? Just give me 3 hots and a cot, and that's just sick. That's sick, but it's like so set, I'm proud and I'm gratitude that I get to sit here today with joy in my heart after just leaving my father's service, and not have to think like that.
Is it an institutionalized thinking, or is it just that part that you shared about that? Like, look, when I was in there, I had a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening, call it what you will, but like I said, for me, this was the only time my head was shut off. I had nothing else to worry about. It's
the first 60 days is hard. After that, it's like you're just where you're at, and then you get to make the best of it. I read, like you said, I read all kinds of books. I read every RL token. I mean, just it's a place for me and mentally of peace when life is hard. But like life only really gets hard for me when I relapse. That's the craziest thing about it.
That.
Literally every time, though, there's no breaks.
I remember when I was younger, and jail used to torment me. Like I'd be there and I would feel so entrapped and just panicked. I wanted to get out, and I just would cry and I would scream. And I was very unaccepting of my surroundings. And this had to happen like 200 times.
Right.
200. Oh yeah.
Okay.
200 times I had to go to jail. Like and the poem God's Hotel comes to mind. Like over and over again, I would just get picked up and moved back into jail until I could figure it out. Or like the game Grand Theft Auto, when he'd go into the jail and
I like the analogy though.
Well, I look at life like a video game in ways like, but we don't get extra lives.
I understand.
You don't get no extra lives. No. That's for sure.
No.
But when you get out, you get to reset, and you got to go dig up your health and your coins or whatever it is, and you got to build it up, right?
Yeah. Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at in recovery now.
Got a lot of coins.
I don't have any coins, man.
I
got a lot.
Tags.
Yeah, recovery coins.
Oh, I was thinking about money, man.
Gold. She's talking about buried gold.
Yeah, I'm talking about that car note. That's rough. Adulting is rough.
Raena, we kind of paused out here. You were talking about dad, stepdad, dad. You get out of jail and you have this choice, limo or dad. And dad's like, look, you only have one thing in this world guaranteed is a choice. And you chose wrong. That you stated you felt you chose wrong. Take us from there. You're there. You jumped out the limo, bad choice. And then where are we going?
I spent a lot more time making terrible decisions and repeating the same lessons over and over again, getting into different relationships that were abusive. And I started to believe that it was me. There was something wrong with me, because all of them, if 10 people tell you have a tail, you're going to turn around and look, right? And so I used to think that there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't lovable, that I was exactly what they told me I was, and I won't repeat those things,
Right.
I couldn't for the life of me figure out why somebody with such a good heart would attract such terrible people that could hurt somebody so bad, but it's not me having a victim mentality. I could finally, later on in life, I got over trying to figure out why or how or who. It doesn't matter. The past is the past. And that's the hang up. Okay. I kept repeating the same lessons over and over again. I went to prison. I had these bad relationships. I had a wonderful son, a beautiful little boy who changed my life. And he was a very large child when he came out. But
was that when you were living in California when you were pregnant with him?
No, I had him in Texas.
How heavy?
He was 9'6".
Wow.
That's my boy yesterday. They just had their kid. Shout out Tyler and Sadie. But 10'6".
My son was 9'6", and he's now 17 years old. Little Tyler.
Yeah, I love that dude, by the way. He's a solid young man.
So him and his dad and I had a good run. We moved down there, and his dad, my son's dad's dad, took us in, and we went to treatment and got clean. My son was born clean.
Yeah.
And I was free of drugs and alcohol. Oh, stop.
Hey,
I mean,
miracles.
Right. That's
living that way, and then you're able to have a clean kid.
So, and we ended up getting a house. We rented it, and his dad worked very hard for a while. And I went back to the club and made some poor choices. And
dancing. The club means dancing.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I guess my son is old enough now that if he's watching, he can understand. But yeah, that was that. I have an addictive personality, And I think the lifestyle is just as, if not more addicting than the drugs itself.
You let the poison seep back in.
The attention and the buckets full of money, like literally
the lifestyle,
champagne buckets full of money,
right?
Suitcases, whatever, and that's real life right there. So, but easy come, easy go. That's another choice. I didn't learn till much later how important the value of a dollar is, because they're hard to make, especially when you go to prison and you make 25 cents an hour. That can't run that up very fast. So anyway, I ended up leaving that abusive relationship and moving back here to Minnesota with my 4-year-old son. And my cat, Jack Tigger, who I still have.
Jack Tigger.
Yeah. My son wanted to name him Tigger, but I like Jack Daniels, so I wanted to name him Jack. And so his name is Jack Tigger. Yeah, he's the only Jack Tigger in the world. Nice. So we moved back here, and I stayed with my aunt for a while. And then right when I got back here, I started drinking even more heavily and ended up with 2 DUIs in like 2 months. Back to back. But I ended up going to college to get the loan money to get a lawyer so I could get a car and pay for, all the things. But
so you hustled it up.
Yeah, I did. But I got real close to getting a degree. I ran it for like 4 years, and I went to college for art, of course, because I wanted to avoid the math prerequisite. But I'm really, really talented artist. I don't use a whole lot anymore because I'm a single mom who has to work 2 jobs and who gets to work 2 jobs and be with my children.
This one right here.
I don't mind.
All right.
Eden, look at the window, baby. Over here.
Look at the little princess. There she
is. Right there. Wave at the camera right there.
You're on camera. Look up. Look at the TV.
So,
look at that little smile.
So I did use a lot. I drank, but I stayed away from meth and cocaine for a long time while I was, in college. And I worked a job, and my son and I were together, and I held it together for a little while. And that's when I met Bella. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, Bella.
There's millions of them out there. We just say last name.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Anyway, making poor decisions landed me out of college. One day I'm literally like 2 classes away from getting my degree, and I just was in a welding class, and I had my tools and my shield on, and I just dropped my tools and took my shield off and left, and I never went back. I just snapped, and decided I wanted to go back to using drugs and alcohol more than I cared about that. And so the story goes, I'm like a phoenix. I burn it to the ground and then rise from my ashes over and over again, whatever. So where am I at?
You met somebody.
Oh yeah. So another abusive relationship. And then I ended up leaving him and getting a job at a dive bar that was the coolest job ever. But it was the worst decision I could ever have made for myself in the, selling pills and slinging drinks and staying up for days doing blow. And I ended up getting fired from that job because I blacked out at work, and I don't even remember what I was saying. I was throwing glasses around, and the owner was there. It was just terrible. But it was good. I don't need to be a bartender. It's really
how old is your boy at this time? You're at this job?
My boy was about 8.
Okay. And he's 17 now, you said?
Yeah. So
it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. So he was about 8, and I lost the job there, ended up hustling my way into living in this 5-bedroom house in Fridley, which turned into a trap house because how am I going to pay for all these rooms?
Right. Trap.
I thought I could, go out and work out of town and pay for this house by myself, which I could have done if I wasn't severely addicted to shooting meth. It made sense in my head at the time. Right. And so I started to try to trust people that I shouldn't have. And of course, they're not going to pay bills. They just moved into all the spare rooms. And my son still lived in the home at the time. And that's where I met Eden's dad and lost my house and ended up homeless. And this is when the most important lessons in my life were learned. And before I lost the house, the bounty hunters that came looking for her dad, and my son had just went on a summer vacation to go visit his grandfather, the one that we lived with when I was getting sober with him when he was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he went down.
Dad's dad.
Yeah, he went down there to visit for the summer, and the bounty hunters ended up calling down there looking for the person that they were looking for in my house. And I had I had earned 3 felony drug charges within 2 months, back to back to back, just like the DUIs, back to back to back. And I had 3 or 4 fifth-degree felony charges while my son was gone on summer vacation. And so they thought when they post the charges online, it says 5th-degree possession of controlled substance, heroin or other. It does it so it everybody thinks I'm doing heroin because of these.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, in my mind, it wasn't that bad because I wasn't doing heroin. I was only doing meth, right? I am not
higher
doing
echelon
heroin.
of drug use.
So,
Heroin light.
But you're right. The wording would, anyone from the outside reading it would assume, okay, it's heroin.
Yeah.
right. So, my son's grandfather's family members approached me gently, and they approached me with what's called a DOPA, a declaration of parentage, a temporary declaration of parentage. And they offered, which means that, hey, look, you can give us your son temporarily while you get your stuff together.
We'll keep him safe.
We'll keep him safe, and this we'll be able to take him to the doctor, is what they told me, and I didn't quite catch on, but
right.
So he went away for a summer vacation that summer, and he did not come back for 4 years.
Mm.
And after that summer vacation, I ended up homeless and pregnant at 38 years old and nowhere to live, and ended up in Iowa.
I know this is a weird question. Did you have God in your life at this point?
I've always had God in my life.
Okay, no, keep going.
But later in the story, you'll hear,
okay.
I've always, like, over time, and like I said, I heard him. And when I had a clear mind when I was in jail, I learned some things, but I always, turned away.
I have a question for both of you about that after we kind of get past this. Plus, I had someone who asked that just now while you're speaking. Like, could you ask if she's had God in her life throughout this process? So, okay, keep going. So you're pregnant, 38 years old, son's gone. Like, okay,
right, man. Okay, so I got all these 5th-degree felonies and stuff, and I know I'm going to have to go to court eventually, and I end up pregnant. So I left Minnesota.
I'm gone.
Well, I'm not going to have my baby in prison, and CPS is not going to take my child away. So I ran. I ended up in Iowa, and then Dallas, Texas.
Had they picked up baby dad? The bounty hunters? Did they get him?
They did, and then I did some things, and he got out of jail.
So you guys you thought ahead, like, I'm not having my kid in jail, but we're leaving.
So he had some warrants, and I was about to have some warrants and stuff. So I was about to have a baby 9 months from now. So
you're so clever with fucking drugs.
Well, and I was under the impression that Texas was a non-extraditional state, which is not true.
I don't think any state is not.
Well, I mean, depending on if the county of commit wants to come, they want to pay the money to come and get you.
Yeah, you're right.
So we ended up in Dallas for a while, and I worked a job there, pregnant, and things went south there for a number of reasons. And I have some friends down there that are no longer my friends, which is funny that I have to bring that up now, because I think I need to make amends to those people, or some of the people that I haven't made amends to yet. That one's really scary for me. He had this great idea that we should go to Anaheim because he knows a guy who owns a 7-Eleven or works at one or something, and we're going to go out there and we'll be okay. And that was by far one of the stupidest decisions I ever made in my life, but yet it was one of the most empowering decisions that I've ever made, because what happened after that was absolutely horrifying. I ended up taking a Greyhound all the way out to Anaheim, California. We didn't ever find this guy that worked at this gas station. Okay.
Was this a pipe dream type
Okay, so like I don't know if anybody knows about the homeless population on the West Coast, but it is definitely it's apocalyptic. Like
Right.
like literally there are so many people that are homeless out there. They're defecating in the streets. There's needles everywhere. There's hundreds and hundreds
And
of
this is
people.
what, 5 years ago? 4 years ago?
This was in 2019.
Yeah, and it's only gotten worse from my
Yeah,
understanding.
and
like,
so we're out there. We have nowhere to go. There you can't even use a public restroom out there. There are no gas stations that you can go into. You can't go into a Walmart if you're not a paying customer. There are no like all the shrubs are cut like 2 feet off the ground, so you can't like lay behind them. There are no bus like benches. There's no outlets inside of the Starbucks so you can charge your phone. Like you are literally, there's nothing. There is absolutely nothing out there. And I did not shower for 42 days. And I'm pregnant. Like I'm just saying this shit on the air, dude. And I literally walked further than I'd ever imagined a human being can walk. We ended up going, I was sleeping under these red, big giant red wood trees. I think they're red with the needles, in Orange, California. And I would cover myself in these needles so that the other homeless people wouldn't do things to me, and like so the people wouldn't see me. And eventually the owner found me one day and he's like, "What are you doing on my yard? You know, you can't sleep here." And I'm like, "Look, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not really homeless. I'm just looking for my husband. He has a drug problem and I can't find him. And we got stuck out here and I just want to go home. Can you help us get to San Diego?" You know, so he paid for a train ticket for us to get from Anaheim to San Diego.
Just as strangers, trees.
And that's like,
yeah,
that's like a 4-hour ride from LA basically to San Diego, or 3 hours.
Yeah, it's not that far, but we didn't have I didn't have money to eat, like, and you can't steal there, like, you don't. But they are so far ahead of the game as far as how terrible things are in fashion too. I mean, their fashion's way better. But anyway, so I used to live in San Diego like 20 some years ago, and I had some friends who were still there, so I ended up connecting with someone out there. But once that person found out I had her dad with me, he was like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you." So we ended up stuck outside again, and like ended up going back to Anaheim. And then from Anaheim we went to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix we went to San Bernardino and El Cajon and LA. I ended up in Skid Row, LA, and then
pregnant.
Before you move too fast on that one too, we bonded over something else because we both have cartel experiences.
Oh yeah, we're talking about Shelltown. Yeah, so we were walking through San Diego one day, and I'm just tired, and I'm so tired, and I know it's getting close to having this baby, and I got a dead Lime scooter. There's no juice in it. I have no money. I'm just my bag's hanging on it, and I'm just pushing it, you know. And we end up running into these gangbangers, and they're gonna help us, and they basically tried to trick us into going into this like drain pipe thing to it's safe down there. I'm like, I'm not going in there. You're out of your mind, right? And I had a tent that we had gotten somewhere, and I just couldn't walk anymore because I was so tired, you know. And I think by this point I had walked. There's a mountain in California. No, this was after the mountains after. Okay, so I lay down in this tent because I'm pregnant. I'm gonna have a baby. I'm 37 years old or 8 or whatever. And dude just did not want to leave. He didn't care if I was. He didn't care. I'm sorry, I'm almost done.
No, you're good.
You take your fucking time. It's not much
he
time as you need.
He didn't care that I was tired. He wanted to leave, and so he left me in that tent.
The baby dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
He left me in that tent with those
real quality
Mexican gangbangers, and there's nothing wrong with Mexicans or gangbangers. I'm just using them for descriptive words.
What happened?
The whole walk to where we were going, they were talking about the sex trade and human trafficking and how easy it is to take people over the border to Tijuana and they'll never be seen again. And
like trying to scare you, or just
no, they were just nonchalantly talking about it, but you know,
Yeah.
I basically, I don't have any proof of this, but I'm pretty sure that that
you were
was
on the list.
Yeah. So I ended up getting away from these guys. I left all my stuff and got away and walked all the way back to 12th and Imperial in San Diego. And I found him there. And when he saw me, he rolled his eyes. And I still was stupid. And I still wanted to make sure, you know, like.
No, what is
Well, like,
we're all good or like.
No, like. I so desperately wanted to have a family with this human being.
Okay.
I was pregnant with his child, and I followed him all the way across the nation.
And what, you're like 30-something weeks pregnant now?
Yeah, yeah. And I got left there, you know, and I lived through it. But there's more.
Are you even able, like, throughout any of this, are you able to go to any doctors, like get, you know, like normal stuff you do?
No, there was no prenatal care at all.
Okay.
I was lucky if I could find a cup of noodles to eat.
And this is a little angel?
Right? Yeah.
Fucking score. No, serious. I mean, I keep coming.
But the beauty of that is, this is so, I can't believe I'm saying all this shit, man.
You're good. Me too. Trust me. I got pretty mortgage business.
Even though it was easier to find drugs out there, I stayed sober for most of it.
Right. You did.
No matter how hard and how hungry I knew. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
you have a healthy little girl there. And whatever you're not comfortable sharing, you don't have to. Whatever. You're good.
So I ended up getting away from there, and we ended up, our next game plan was we were going to walk. We were going to walk to the east. Okay. So we're
just going east.
We're in the middle of the San Andreas Fault. Okay. So we just kept walking and we ran into a mountain range. And I ended up walking like 15 miles up this mountain into Ramona, California, where somehow the police stopped us and they told me I had a warrant for aircraft theft in Minnesota.
Say what?
Yeah, dude, like aircraft theft. And I, on God, this is what the cop told me. And it was not the only time I heard it when I was out in California, when there was never a warrant for that. I don't
like, you did a lot of shit, but you never saw an airplane.
Never saw an airplane.
You did hijack airplanes.
So, but you know, the truth is stranger than fiction, man. So,
airplane.
I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was.
That's almost up.
So okay, so where was I? Okay,
so this cop stops you out of the blue. You guys are
because we're loitering on the front of some strip mall, and ended up this story could go on and on forever. And there's a lot of horrible shit that happened. There's people that live in the sewers out there who they kill people and they steal people and they do horrible things to people.
Treachery.
And me and my daughter are alive. And my son has his mom. Mm-hmm. And so we leave California because, so we went to Vegas.
That's the angel right there.
We left and ended up in Vegas, and $5 bought, he ended up throwing it in a slot machine, and we won like $300, and that bought us enough McDonald's and 2 Greyhound tickets to Denver, because I had a friend who lived in Denver somewhere, but I didn't know where she was. So I went into false labor in Las Vegas and ended up in Denver, where I was at a homeless place out there, and this street outreach team came by and they saw how pregnant I was and they tried to help me and stuff. And I turned them down because I was still wanting to have a baby with this man. And he left me just left. And
did you kind of think the whole time, like you had this feeling he was going to cut out regardless? By the sounds of everything, like
I mean, I don't really know. Like,
okay.
I
know it doesn't really matter now.
I guess based on what I lived through in my life and the abandonment issues and all the dumb shit that I put myself through,
it's par for the course.
But I didn't want to be wrong again.
Right.
I wanted a family.
Right.
I lost my family when I was a teenager, and I was searching for that the whole time, and I never found it. You know what I mean? And this is where the good stuff happens. Okay. So, I finally decide I'm going to go into this homeless shelter, and I'm going to leave, and I'm going to stop trying to find him. And the second that I set my purse down on the cot, my water broke. And so anyway, fast forward, I give birth to this baby girl at the county hospital, and CPS takes her away because I did relapse that day. And I got her back.
In Denver?
This is in Denver. Okay. Yeah, I got her back. I only relapsed the one time.
So, quick question about this. So you give birth, and they take her. Do they even? And I don't know if this is state to state, but do they did they run any criminal stuff? Like, did they look into you?
Of course.
Okay. And they weren't like, hey, wait a sec. You got an airplane theft out in Minnesota.
I don't even know what that airplane theft was.
It didn't come
up in Denver.
Okay. I was going to say, when you were there, like when CPS took her, they didn't bring up none of your criminal stuff, right?
No.
Okay.
No. And I didn't mention it because no, not at that point.
Okay.
Well, because the funny story, the funny part of this story is like literally after I gave birth to her, he was there. He cut the cord. He ended up getting arrested 3 hours after she was born and extradited back to Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah. So I ended up being stuck in Denver, and I fought to keep my little girl. And so anyway, I lived there for a year, and a whole bunch of dumb shit happened, and years passed, and I ended up back in Minnesota with warrants. You know, I knew that these things were coming, so I came back here to face the music. Eventually, after I went back to Texas, and a bunch of dumb shit happened, and ended up homeless and flying a sign out there, and then came back here with the truck that I bought with the stimulus money that Trump gave out during COVID. So I ended up with a '97 Chevy Tahoe. 1500 was nice. So, but by the time I ended up driving it back here, the transmission went out on it. So I drove here in a truck that only went 50 miles an hour the whole way home.
What, you and Shorty? Just the two?
Yeah, it was me and Eden. Yeah,
that's a road dog.
So you get back to Minnesota, and you know you're gonna face the music. Did you have plans? Like, all right.
I talked verbally with my aunt, and I asked her. You know, I was like, look, I know shit's not gonna be good, so will you make a promise to me to take care of my kids? And I ended up back in letting somebody back in my life, and I ended up trying to steal some Christmas presents from a Shakopee Walmart. This is right before Christmas, and so they pulled me over and they took her away.
But what happened in the Walmart parking lot? Why did they take her? That wasn't the shoplifting, right? Was this the loaded rig deal?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had a loaded rig in my pocket with no cap on it, and I tried to tell the cops that it wasn't mine, and I was.
I'm just holding this for someone.
Yeah. I was cleaning somebody's house earlier today, and he's got a drug problem. Blah. So anyway, they took my children, and now both of my children have been in the back of a squad car with me at different times in my life. And Eden was in the back of the squad with me, and I had more dope on me. And I just looked at her, and I had it in my hand, and I could have, put it somewhere and got rid of it, but I was relieved.
Right.
And I took a deep breath, and I knew in that squad when I looked at that little girl that it was over, And I told her, I said, hey, mommy's going to have to go for some time now. And she looked at me and she shook her head and she went, no. She was 2 years old, and I knew it was over then. And so I went to Scott County Jail, conned somebody into bailing me out of jail again, and ended up homeless on the east side. And this is where this old lady comes into play, right? So
straight up angel, y'all.
They're like Ghost of Christmas Future or something.
Straight up. So, this is a trippy story. So walk them through it. This is really deep.
I try to get myself out of, I got myself out of jail, and I've only got a pair of Adidas slides on my feet when I get out of jail, and I got nowhere to go, but I got a bag of dope and a dead scooter, another dead scooter, right? And it's freezing outside.
It was like February or something.
It was Christmas.
It was Christmas.
It was Christmas.
And you got flip-flops on.
Yeah, I got these slides on walking down University towards Snelling Avenue, and there's a bar on the corner there, and I could see the lights on, and I'm walking along, and this little tiny lady, crackhead lady, she says, hey, you got a cigarette? And of course I got a cigarette. So I'm like, yeah, sure. No problem. Right. So I go to hand it to her. She goes, hold this. And she's got this little tiny like gift sack, and it's filled with a bunch of different shit. And she says, hold this. And she takes her gloves off. Right. And then she starts digging through this bag all the way to the bottom of this bag. And she pulls out a scratch off, and it's a $10 winner. And she says, here, you take this. And I said, oh no, I'm good. She goes, you be quiet. You be quiet. You take that right there. So I'm like, yes, ma'am. So she turns me around. She starts walking me the other direction, away from the bar. And I know it's like Christmas Eve and I really want to get in that bar. I really want to have a drink. And she starts walking me around the corner and telling me the story. She starts talking about how she lost her kids when she was younger. And this is after my children had been taken by CPS. And I had resigned to the idea in my mind already when I bailed myself out of jail that I was going to die a junkie. I wasn't going to go back. I was going to let them go. And I was going to.
You weren't getting your kids back.
I was going to let them go because I wasn't good enough to be their mom. Right. You know, that I didn't think I could fight it. I didn't think I could get better. That they deserved to have a life and I couldn't give it to them. You know, the devil lied to me.
Right.
So anyway, this little old lady, she's telling me about how she lost her kids and her kids are grown and how they love her still and they forgave her and all this other stuff. And I start bawling as we're walking to the corner. She even called her son on her little flip phone and she had me dial it for her because she couldn't see it, you know. And she's like, I need you to talk to so-and-so. I need you to hear him tell you how he feels about his mom. You know, so I get on the phone with whatever his name is and he starts yelling at me and they're both telling me, you go get your kid. You go get your kid. And I don't even know, like, I didn't even share any of the details of my story until she brought it up, you know. And so we get to the corner by the alleyway and I can see the back of the bar, you know, and she shifts my attention again. And then I hang up the phone and I look back and the damn bar is closed. You know, the bar is closed. And by the end of this conversation, I decided I was going to fight and I was going to go after being a mom. And that little old lady, she changed my mind. Like she was an angel, you know? Mm-hmm. And anyway, so the next day I called JJ Brennan. She and I share a baby dad and she'd gotten sober a number of years before I did and was taking care of my son when I couldn't take care of him still. This is after he came back from Texas and all that. And she drove me to RCCS the next day and that was the last day. That was 12/26/21.
Yeah. And that's crazy because I really look at that as like the ghost of Christmas future. Like this lady's walking up, like I lost both my kids here. Let me tell you, talk to my son who I never got back. You know what I mean? And you had resigned to that idea. Like, this is it. I'm not worth it. I'm done. And I have had the pleasure to kick it with both your kids. And I think they're both dope and thriving and they love their mama, man. That's absolute truth. I don't think either one of them want to be separated from you at all.
So that's when we get to the solution. And I'll say it very quickly.
Oh, look at that. Look at her. A happy little girl.
I mean, I'm not going to lie and say it was easy because it wasn't easy. I had to run together a bunch of days where I didn't get high. And in the beginning, for 9 months, that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Getting high for 40 years? It was just not easy to stop.
Right. Well, so, I had to do all the things. I jumped through the hoops. I did what CPS told me. I did what probation told me. I got a job. I stayed clean. And I made the choice over and over and over again. And that's what it is you make the choice. There's no treatment. I mean, treatment helps. These things help. There are facets that can help us. But at the end of the day, the thing that keeps you clean and sober is the choice to do so.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So, all right.
Now, the one other thing I'm going to add, Raena tends to put herself in the middle. And that's true. Somebody spoke up today and said that they latched on to her because she's a strong woman. And I latched on to you because I thought you were super strong. But then I just found out so much stuff that we had related on. And I know there's, both of us, this is a very scary position for me to be in, obviously, given my career to be recovering out loud. I don't do this, you know what I mean? But I wanted to step outside of my comfort zone with you on this one because you have totally saved my life. And I feel like these stories that you tell will definitely save somebody else's life.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I just put myself out there with a lot of stuff. I honestly have never told all the things.
We only, what is it? 1,400 people. That's it. There's not many.
You're kidding me right now, right?
Listen though, here's the thing.
Are you fucking kidding me?
If I wasn't, and you just wanted to respond with the F word.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
No, we have like 4 churches that listen to they simulcast through like different nations. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me right now, dude?
Listen. Here's the thing though.
Oh my God.
We talked about. Stop it. I'm telling you, saved lives tonight. You're here clean. Do you want to use again? Do you want to use?
No, and that's.
You want to go to the bar?
No, never.
Okay. And you just talked about 30 years, Skid Row, the darkest shit, human trafficking, kids being lost, no prenatal care, some of the darkest shit I've heard in a long time. But you're not alone. You know how many?
No, this place, these people. Like, honestly, when I was in treatment, here's another interesting thing, right? So my mom died when I was 15, right? And my son, when I finally decided to get clean, he was coming up on 15, and he had just come back from Texas, and he was supposed to be staying with me, and I ended up in a shelter and another shit show. But when I decided to go to treatment at RCCS, and JJ brought me there, the sober house they put me in is a block away from the cemetery where my mom is buried. So when I walked into the door of that place, I can look over to the left and I can see the cemetery where my mom is buried, right? And I see a fork in the road. And I'm coming up on the same age that she was when she passed away, and my son is the same age as I was, and that's the main reason that I'm sitting before you today clean and sober, is because
you choose to live.
I chose to live, and I wanted my son and my daughter to not have to experience what it's like to lose their mom.
And listen, y'all, I don't have the clean time, really, but the clean time doesn't equal recovery time.
Bro.
I got today, but I'm gonna tell you something. If you are out there and you're watching this and you're thinking it's that bad,
man.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, me and her have had deeper conversations and things we won't share tonight on this podcast. We won't. It's just too deep, and it's we got kids and families and stuff.
I think I said too much as it is. So.
Right. So, but listen, I think that what you got to take from it is the inspiration that I took from it. Like, I needed to see what saved my life when having these conversations with Raena is like, just I'd be honest with you, Raena, I'd find somebody that had it harder than I did.
Oh, fair, right? But here, today it's I'm the strongest person I know, and
yeah,
I know a lot of people who say that about you too.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
I'm the strongest person I know, and I wouldn't take back that experience being homeless out there for anything.
We used to have that question come up, and I'd ask my guest that, and I stopped asking it about 6 months ago, because to me it's like a lottery question. Like, oh, what would you do if you won the lottery? It's not an option. And the question was like, if there was something you could change in your past, what would it be? I don't want to give people it's pointless.
I wouldn't change anything.
Exactly. In fear of I might not be right here. I did grimy. There's some things like I'm like, damn.
Those experiences shaped me into who I am now and made me the person I am now. Yep. And
100%.
And I wouldn't change any of it.
100%.
Not even losing my mom.
100. Well, I can't say for you. What I can say is for me. Like, I wouldn't change shit.
Think about it like this: if I hadn't lost her and she wasn't in that cemetery, I might have never seen that fork in the road, and I might have never made the choice to stay clean and sober to live for my children. It's not about whether I die for my kids; it's if I would live for them.
Yeah.
Like I said, the butterfly. Like I said, that I wouldn't. I don't want on this show. I won't entertain that. Like, it's pointless. Why? There's nothing. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to, if I could have did this or did that. No, it's what am I today and tomorrow.
Right.
While I was homeless in California, I found a pocket Bible and I carried it with me, and I would read scripture from it. It was only the New Testament, but still, honestly, that's what kept me alive. Being on the train tracks with all those people, being in Shelltown with the gangbangers, being with the people in the sewers, like they were going to kill me, literally kill me.
So here's some questions that we've had quite a few come in. But I want to talk about some higher power stuff, because both of you, I know you both we've touched on and talked a little bit about it. This is a question that always gets asked, and I ask it now just normally, is, do you have a higher power, and how does it play a role in your life today? Go ahead, Forrest.
So, you were going to touch on something about that a little earlier, and it's been really sitting in my head. So when I was locked up, like I mentioned to you, I read the Bible, and one part of the scripture that really stuck with me, there's a passage in the Bible that talks about it's better to have not known about Jesus or God at all than to have known about God and then done the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of messed me up, because what happened is that after I knew this and I had this knowledge, thank you for the soap, by the way, my brother. But after I knew this and I had this knowledge that that's the deal, what the Bible says, right? It's better to have known or not known at all about Jesus and sin than to know about Jesus and continue to sin.
Correct.
And I had this knowledge. Well, when I got out of jail, I went right back to this extreme lifestyle. Let's just put it to you like that. Okay. And I literally had this passage in my brain. So what happened with me is that I, at that point, thought, you've made your decision. You've made your decision. You're going against God. And I lived that way for so long that I convinced myself that I had made some sort of pact with Satan. You know what I mean? I convinced myself that I was no longer in the graces of God or Jesus or my higher power, that I was in line with what Satan wanted me to do. I wasn't like a Satan worshiper or no shit like that.
But this is what your thoughts were.
In my head, I was like, yo, God ain't want no peace with me. And when I die, I'm going to hell, period. And I thought that way about myself for several years. I believed in Christianity. I believed in religion. I believed in all that. But I just didn't think that's where I was going. Right. And I convinced myself of that. And so when coming back and finding myself and deciding to get clean and deciding to start to live again, that's when I was able to go back and open up that door again. And I didn't know that door would be open for me, but they say that he stands at the door and knocks. And I'm a Christian. That's my higher power. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he said he stands at the door and knocks. And if you open up the door and let him in, he will receive you. And that, we are saved by grace. And grace meaning that you're given this sort of this love that's eternal, this love that you can get no matter what it is you do. And that's a real thing, I think, because the more I stay focused, the more I try to do the next right thing, the more I pick up scripture, the more I do those, my life gets better. So God didn't give up on me, even though I thought I gave up on him. And that's really part of why I'm not joking. This isn't a hypothesis or like some kind of like me. I really thought I needed an exorcism because I thought I was in lieu with the things I was doing. The things I was doing, you would think that that's where I was at. Right.
There's a church I brought up earlier, and I've been there a few different times, called Serenity Village. There's a pastor named Danny who pastors there, and he always talks about this. He's like, I'd rather live my life believing that there's a God to die and find out there wasn't, than to live my life acting like there is no God and die and find out there is. Live in eternity and find out there was by living in sin, versus live my life believing there was, die and find out there wasn't. You know what I'm saying? No. Kind of what you're talking about at the beginning there. Like, hey, my
higher power is awesome because the thing is that he gave me 1 billion second chances at life. I'm not even talking about just like, oh, I went broke and then I made money back. I'm talking about life. Like I should have died so many times, not just from overdoses, just the way I was living. So he keeps giving me these second chances. And now, it's like sitting at the roulette table or the dice table, your luck will run out. And I've seen it happen too many times to be that foolish. And I'm intelligent. So for me to be like stupid and not think that I'm pushing my luck, I don't got that many more second chances. Jared made a good point, today. Sorry.
You're fine. You didn't say no last names.
But yeah, so a guy made a good point today about another guy falling and breaking his neck and off of a relapse, you know what I mean? And so like the things I put myself into every single time that I touch any kind of chemical is like, just, you might as well take the bullet, spin it and click it. So my higher power loves me. There's something that he's got intended for me. And that's why he keeps bringing me back to these rooms and does not allow me to give up. And I don't think it's me, it's y'all. If I don't have Raena to come back to this room, if I don't got Tim to come back to this room, I might not be coming back to this room.
Here's the cold piece that a guy named Wade told me. He said it in the men's meeting that takes place here at 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Someone was sharing about all their overdoses and how many times they died. And all he said was, who do you think brought you back? Why do you think you're here? And they said, God. He's like, and you're going to go slap him in the face and do it again?
Right.
Shit hit me hard.
Yeah, man.
You're going to go slap him in the face? All these different chances. You want to slap him in the face? And if you believe that that's why you're still here, you got these extra chances and someone kept you here, you wanted to go slap him in the face. I don't know. Yeah, real quick, we got to take a segment break and introduce this fella here. We're going to unmute his mic. There he is. And you brought something. We're going to have this new thing on the show every week where he comes in with some gifts. And he's going to tell us, what did you just bring in to the guests that are on the show tonight? Who are you first?
I'm Chucky.
Hi, Chucky.
How you guys doing? I gotta just tell you, I've been listening to you guys up at the Soul Factory, and I love you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you too, Chucky.
Thank you. You guys, I love both of you now more than I did in the beginning. Not that I didn't love you in the beginning, but
it's just that much more.
I love you guys even that much more.
So what'd you bring them tonight?
I brought them some soapstones to take down the giants of hopelessness, rage, and despair. Kills germs, armor of Yah kills germs that would ordinarily get under your skin that cause incarceration.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna hold this one.
Armor of Yah. Yeah, baby. Armor of Yah.
Yeah, when they use it, they keep coming back for more. So, all right. Thank you, Chucky. I love you for that. Don't go nowhere because you're gonna close us out with some music. Young lady, you walked around with a pocket Bible, and you shared about some pretty heavy metal stuff.
Honestly, God was the only thing I had. There's no reason I should be alive. There's no reason that I should have my children. I know I didn't do it myself. I couldn't make it through 1 minute of my life without the obsession of wanting to shoot poison into my body, and I don't feel that anymore. The obsession and the cravings, I can remember what it was like, but I don't feel it in my body anymore. I can talk about these experiences, all of this terrible stuff that I've described and shared with you today, and it doesn't move me anymore. That's healing. And I know I didn't do it myself.
He took the obsession away?
Yes, God took the obsession away from me. Like I didn't do that, right? So if anybody has a doubt, just to look around you. Freedom's in the truth.
Yeah. Oh, freedom's in the truth.
Mm-hmm.
God with skin on it. Got to keep your eyes open. Be willing to hear it. So are you guys cool? We've gone about an hour and 40 minutes. You guys okay with a couple questions that came in and a couple questions we usually ask? And
I talked so long.
I just got to say one thing really quick before we do. Recovery can be dangerous. So if you're going to choose it, go all the way in, baby, because it will mess up your high. And
definitely
it will mess up your high. And
true.
It's like taking the red pill or the blue pill. Once you jump into the matrix, there is no turning back. You can relapse, but you'll never be the same. And that's something that I've learned the hard way. I made phone calls to Raena to help, both on bad nights and good nights. And thank God that I have some people who don't fall for my bullshit and don't co-sign my nonsense. And just, listen, recovery will screw your high up.
Once you're a pickle, you can never be a cucumber again.
I'm telling you.
There was a question that came in for you, Raena, is there's rumor that you're some type of a special peer coach, something. What is this? What are you?
Well, there's a lot of us and all of us who have.
What are you and what is it?
I am what they call a peer recovery specialist. I don't really like the title, so I like to go with peer recovery coach.
Good enough.
And the only prerequisite for being a peer recovery coach is lived experience and a year's clean time. So if anybody out there wants to use their experience to reach out and help other people save their own lives, that's
so you are. I know that we say We'll Work for Recovery is a recovery community organization, and what comes with that is resources. So this is the part where we're going to advertise.
Okay, so yeah, this is my first time on a podcast, so I'm going to plug the
mine too. Don't trip. Like I said, we're down to like only 2,400
here at Will Work for Recovery. We, like Tim said, we are an RCO, recovery community organization, and we have a few of us recovery coaches here that mentor and, for lack of a better term, lead people out of their addiction if they want to learn a different way to live. That's what I do. Is I stand beside them and encourage them and teach them to draw from their own experiences and use it in a positive way.
And you help them with resources, whatever may need it. Do you know a guy named Tony Sartwell?
Oh yeah, hi Tony.
Is he part of your story somehow?
Tony.
There you go. I put you on blast, buddy.
Yes, Tony is part of my story. Tony's a very important human being to me. I knew him.
You saw the comment?
No, I didn't,
Oh,
but I
okay.
just knew when you mentioned his name. I knew him as Northside Tony. And he stepped out of the darkness before I did. But we were definitely out there in it together, and we knew very, very different versions of each other. And that's the biggest miracle about this is to see the other side
Right.
of a human being and see the complete contrast.
Northside Tony.
Yeah, sorry, Tony.
No, that was more or less busting his balls. So, no, this new life it's out there for the taking. You just heard two people really talk about some history in their life and where they're at today, and they're both free from active addiction, and it's here for the taking. So Forrest,
Yes.
we had a question come in for you, and let me find this. I get a lot, and you guys, the number going across the bottom. Feel free. You can keep sending me questions, and if I didn't get to any of your questions tonight, sorry. It's not personal. It's because I'm a knucklehead, and I don't want to get into why. But it's basically there's a lot of people that are listening through my phone out in the audience. In the side room, if you ever want to come down here and watch the show live, you definitely can. The doors are open to come watch us through the zoo window.
Tim, you remind me of the recovery Bert Kershire, by the way.
I take my shirt off and call me a machine.
The machine.
The machine. Forrest, what's the biggest hurdles in your recovery today, and how do you get over them?
Freedom.
The biggest hurdle is freedom?
Yeah, well, the wrong kind of freedom. For me,
My kid's going crazy out there.
you know what they say, idle mind is a devil's playground, or idle time is a devil's playground. And so if I allow myself too much freedom, meaning that I don't set up a plan, I don't create a routine, I don't, do the things that I have worked to keep me clean, that's how it's really easy to backslide. But I can tell you what has been natural now for me is going to meetings. It now has become my safe space. I come to Will Work for Recovery on a Saturday at 2 p.m. They open it up for me, and I sit here 5-6 hours until the meeting starts. I keep the place open for fights or whatever, and I keep the place open. And I'll stay here from 2 p.m. I've done this religiously now, from like 2 p.m. to midnight, 2 and 1 in the morning. I'm like in my safe place.
Right.
I have a home. I have a nice place, and I can go sit there by
recovery.
myself, but I'm not safe by myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why I have to put myself in the middle. And what's also super dope is that like now going to my meeting on Saturdays at Scars and Tattoos, that's 10 a.m. on Saturdays.
What address is that?
Iktomi Tattoo, 35th and Hennepin, Saturdays at 10 a.m.
1415 West 35th Street.
1415 West 35th Street.
And what do they do there?
We get real recovery. We get deep.
Don't they have like art supplies and you can?
Yes, you can get free
Okay.
art and all that stuff there.
It's called Iktomi Tattoos, the art shelf. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Come check us out. It's pretty sweet. And Forrest has become really involved there too. A lot of people have. It's a really good meeting.
But I go to meetings all the time now, so I naturally go to 4 to 5 a week, just because that feels right. I started off where I gotta go to a meeting. Oh man, I don't want to get up and go today. Da 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 da. And now I'm like, dude, I can't wait to go see my people. I need to get some recovery because guess what? Me sitting at home or dealing with the people that came in from out of town today for my dad's funeral. Like, what are you doing tonight? I'm going to a meeting, yo. I'm about to go do some recovery podcasting, and I'm having a good time doing it because I'm going to do it with my friend Raena, who saved my freaking life.
I didn't save your life.
Yeah, I did, nigga.
Whoa.
Sorry, I actually don't get to say that. Sorry about that. Bye.
So
I'm just from the hood. Y'all leave me alone.
We do a lot of these like out of the blue left field questions, and the one that we put it out there, and they said 26. So, Raena, if you could have a talk show, who would your first 3 guests be on your talk show?
Oh boy.
Any 3,
Like
living or dead.
oh.
Any living or dead.
I would have to say Marilyn Manson is on the top of that list.
Okay.
I did Ding Dong Ditch with him at this hotel. I swear to God, him and his whole roadies, and that was up to traffic for Texas.
3
Marilyn
people.
Manson.
Yeah. I just don't ask. I don't have
Okay.
an answer. My mom.
Mom.
And myself.
And you're the host.
Well, I can still ask if I could have my.
Oh, yourself as well.
Yeah. Like I would
doppelganger type.
No, I like if I could possibly do it, I would want to interview myself.
Her former self.
Or I can't interview God because God doesn't have a voice. He's all things. You know, that's. I mean, I'm sorry if that's the answer you wanted from me, but
it's your answer. There's no right or wrong. You know what, Forrest? If you had your own talk show, what would be your first 3 guests, living or dead?
Living or dead? Wow. I'd interview Martin Luther King. You know, I would interview Pablo Escobar.
oh come on, really?
Oh yeah, I'd definitely interview Pablo. And I would interview my dad.
Okay, so, oh, look at that! I love that. Look at this. Look.
They're telling me it's time's up.
Time's up. We got 5 more minutes. We got some quick. We got one more out of the blue question too, and this is for both of you. Forrest,
Yeah.
if you could have only one food, what would it be for the rest of your life?
Oh,
Just one food.
Enchiladas.
Raena, if you could only have one supply of food, what would it be?
I already eat the same thing every day, so that my answer is guacamole and lime
She
chips.
does eat guacamole.
Them lime chips are fire.
Every single day.
They had
I
like
eat it.
5 bags here at one point.
Yeah,
She was
I
telling
make
me she's got a
homemade
guacamole addiction.
guacamole and lime chips.
How do you make your
Cross
guacamole?
addiction.
I use several Haas avocados.
Okay.
I use freshly chopped cilantro, red onion, a full squeeze of lime, and some garlic salt and some salt, and yeah.
Okay. I got one more recovery question for both of you, and then a final, and then we're done.
Okay.
Raena, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to let the audience know, or any last words that you'd like to put out there to the ether?
I just want to say thank you to all the people in the rooms that came before me that were an example. But I also want to thank those same people for being out there in the midst of things before they got sober, because without that contrast, I wouldn't have been able to see that it's possible. Tony Sartwell is one of those people. Seriously, if I hadn't seen those people get better before I did, and that's why I do recovery coaching, because you know it can be done. So thank you to all those people.
That makes sense. A side note is like the guy who walked me through the books was the one person I knew that did things similar to what I did. So in my mind, there was proof like, oh, so this does work for people who do get down like I once did. It was that proof. Forrest, anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to just leave the audience with before we go?
I'd just like to add to what she said. You know, we were feeding some homeless people under the bridge over by Cedar the other day, and I really struggled with my mind to think, like, can these people get clean? But then I have to remember stories like what Raena shared with me, and know that everybody can get recovery. Everybody has an opportunity to get redeemed in life and start over. You're not too far behind. No matter how dark it gets, somebody else has had it darker and has recovered from it. There's a lot of people now that, you know, this program has been around for 70 something years who have had it worse than you, and they've gotten recovered and they've gotten clean. So when you think it's all the way over and when you want to go do that, you want to jump in a pond like I want to do, you know what I mean? When you want to end it all, know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you got to make the call. You got to reach out. You got to go to a meeting. You got to call treatment. You got to go check yourself into, you know, what's it called? Detox. You know, do the extreme thing, because you're doing the extreme things anyways. You know what I'm saying? So do what you think is tough. Give yourself a shot, because you're going to find that you can do it. And, yeah, man, Raina's an inspiration to me, and I'm really proud of her.
You too, Forrest.
All right.
All of you guys are.
The last question that we always ask every guest. Forrest, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
My superpower would be to have all the superpowers of all the Marvel and DC comic characters put together in one.
That's not.
Hey, you know what?
That's not.
No. Hey.
That's my superpower.
It's a superpower. Raena, any superpower, what would it be?
Well, I don't know all of the superpowers for all the DC and Marvel people, so I'm just gonna make up my own.
Yeah, that's what most of us do.
I would want to live forever.
Really?
Yeah.
And age?
I would no, maybe I don't. I'm scared
Would you
to
be
get
like
old.
300 years old? Oh, cracking your bones.
I don't want to get old. No, so no. I guess let me change that. If I had one superpower, what would it be?
Vampires don't age.
I don't know. That's
maybe
not,
vampirism aging less. I
Vampires.
want to be Edward, man. No.
I would guess to be able to read people's thoughts.
Yeah.
Now there's a follow-up to that when people ask this is by choice or like right now you're hearing Chucky, Tim, and Forrest's thoughts and you can't stop it. So just if you want to read them, you hear the question, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying because that would be, I mean, overwhelming. I'm already overstimulated, so I would have to choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's this one side note. There's this Rick and Morty episode. If you don't know, a guy like me kind of likes that show. But there's this one where they all get these powers because they're eating these fortune cookies, but it's really an alien shit. But but they think it's fortune cookies, whatever. But this one dude's like, oh, cannot die. And Rick's like, it's not as good as you think. He starts blasting them. So dude's getting shot up, but not dying. So he's feeling all the pain.
I'm watching the show The Boys right now. And
that's
very,
I love The Boys.
Oh,
it's so messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up. So, okay, I'm going to have Chucky close us out with a little music.
Okay.
Right on.
You okay with that, right? You brought the shofar, right?
Yeah.
All right. So real quick here. You guys have heard a lot of stuff tonight. Thank you for everyone who checked in. There's way too many for us to for me to thank you individually. You know, I'm grateful for you. Always share this show. And if you have ideas for it, reach out to me directly or put it on every Friday night, 8 p.m. We're on next week. I think I have Rick B on the show and we're running some book stuff. Like it's always a good show. But if you guys have ideas for guests or you want to be on the show, reach out to me. Like this isn't my show. This is my Friday night meeting. So with that said, there was also some stuff brought up about like some self-harm and some suicide talk. And I put that 899 hotline number up. Please utilize that. If you're having any thoughts of self-harm or whatever, like you're worth being here. If no one's told you like you're worth this life, you're worth being loved and you are loved, come down to We'll Work for Recovery and get you some. You just heard two people that came from you heard their backstories and look where they're at today. Like that's for you, for anyone for the taking, come get it. Other than that, like, Chucky's the shit and you're about to hear him, Chucky the Soap Man. He's going to play us out with the shofar. If you've never heard this, it's a call to God. I'll let him, he's got a little talk up, but thanks for the support and we'll see you next Friday. Love you all.
This is the trumpet that took down the walls in Jericho, and I pray that whoever hears it, that the walls will fall off around them too. That I don't got time to really go into the whole thing, but we're gonna sound the shofar, take down the walls of our personal Jerichos.
Feel free to say you're going to say your Hebrew prayer.
Yeah.
And then your shofar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Pitter patter.
We're going to summons God with the sound of this horn, and then it'll follow with a blessing in Hebrew and English. And I like when you do the reverb thing a little bit.
Yeah, I got you.
Nice.
Got you, brother. All right.
Okay.
You go ahead.
May the walls of Jericho fall off around everyone who hears this. Adonai v'yishmarecha Ya'er Adonai penav alecha v'chunecha Yaseh Adonai penav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. And may he turn his face towards you and give you peace. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Chucky, we love you. Thank you, everybody. Till next time. We see ya.